Hey, welcome back to Painting Trafalgar. Geez, it's been a couple of weeks since I had an update. But what I've done is I photographed more ship models. I built a new ship model. In the middle ground of this photo is a new model, um, the Pickle, which I actually have it up in the window here, which you can't see the bright sunlight. Pickle's the schooner, the only schooner at the battle. There were a bunch of smaller combatants. Pickle's the one that has a memory and a history. You can look up stuff about the Pickle. There's a replica of the Pickle. But there were two brigs that the French had. The Entrepreneur. No, wait, I'm sorry. The Entrepreneur was the cutter that the British had. The French had the Frouet, and there was a different brig, which was just slightly bigger than this ship. This is my 74 model again, right? And this is Photoshop, so I've taken a bunch of photographs and then I can stick them into Photoshop. On the side there's these little controllers that will give you the controls you need. There's a band-aid tool if it's got a cut. But you can adjust the contrast. So I'm going to select the whole image, right? Select all. And then I'm going to go to adjustments, and I'm going to go to brightness and contrast, okay? So they give you a little slider, and watch what happens when I grab the brightness slider to the picture. I'm going to make it brighter. See, it gets brighter. I can make it darker. Make it darker. Make it darker. And it's good to illustrate this because it shows you that if you're painting, you've got the same choices. You could take your subject matter and you can add contrast by making everything sharper, or remove contrast by making everything more blurry. And you could certainly lighten things or darken them, and that's what comes across as tone, right? I'll make this a grayscale. Let's OK this. Hit the OK button. I will mode. I'll turn this into grayscale. This is now going to be a black and white photograph. So now it's black and white with no color. There's still color, don't worry, but the picture is now black and white, and I can again adjust stuff, right? I'm going back to brightness and contrast. Here it is darker, and you can see all these details that appear when it's darker because there's more of a range between absolute black and absolute white. Now if you go in the opposite direction, now I can only see the darkest of the objects popping out. And you could apply the same lighting and darkening lightening and darkening to each one of the colors you're working with. Like when you mix up a color and apply it to the canvas, let's take ultramarine blue, for instance. It's practically black right out of the tube, or Prussian blue is certainly absolutely black coming right out of the tube. Ultramarine blue is still very, very dark. You don't want to use it full strength unless you're actually trying to show something that's in the dark, a blue object that's dark. So you're going to have to add white paint to it, and that would be the equivalent of adding light to the slider bars, right? So there's like a happy medium in here, right around there, I suppose. Compositionally, from that last painting, I really was really enjoying this idea that you have a foreground and a middle ground and a background. And I thought, I'll frame the ship with the deck in the foreground and almost like a stage curtain, the furled course sails above and the rigging on either side. And I'm excited about this. I'm a little nervous in that there isn't a lot of diagonal. Everything is like on a horizontal line, horizontal hull in distance, horizontal spars. And I worry that could be a little bit monotonous. So I took a bunch of photographs. I actually threw away like 100 photographs as I was taking these pictures. Here's another one that I did. Now this one, I tilted the ship in the foreground towards the viewer, so kind of looking down at it. And I've got the HMS Victory model all the way in the background. This is my kitchen floor, and there's actually about 8 feet between this model and this model. And I'm lying on my belly at the door to the kitchen, and the kitchen floor is covered with the blue fabric. And I put some clothing underneath the blue fabric to make it lumpy, and then I was sort of like twisting the ships back and forth. And I got these interesting compositions. This one has these diagonals. So the previous one I was saying was a little monotonous in that all the horizontal lines were horizontal. In this one, I've added these diagonals which clash with each other. You know, I've got like the hull of the HMS Victory is at this angle, and the hull of the HMS Pickle is at this angle. So it's taking the same elements, but just giving each one a little bit of a twist, and that makes it more interesting. Now, about plausibility, like could you have gone back in time with a drone and hovered alongside the 74 gun ship in rough weather and caught this photograph? I don't know. We'll never know. We'll never know. It's very theatrical, though, so this might be a little too over the top in terms of its how everything's bouncing around and it's crazy, crazy sea. But on the other hand, it will grab the eye, you know. Let's take another look at one of these, another one that I did. They're all kind of similar. Here you can actually see the kitchen floor in the foreground. And I was thinking like I would crop this one. Now cropping is something that everybody can do just by holding up two letter L's cut out of cardboard, right? This would be an L here, and then this would be an L here, and you hold them in your hands and you push them closer together, and it makes the opening in between them smaller. See what I'm saying? But on Photoshop, you can cut this out. Now when I hit return, I will have thrown away all the data of that photograph except for the part that remained in the center. So there it is. Here's the whole picture now, and I'll make it the right size. And I've altered the composition by zooming directly into the part that I think is most interesting. Like in this other image, there was a danger that the sorry. Here. In this one, the schooner's kind of a small element. If this is a 30-inch wide canvas from here to here, this would only be about 8 inches across. So even though I want the schooner to be the main focus, I have made it so small that now you might not be able to see it. But if I zoom in, like I have here, now if this is a 30-inch canvas from here to here, this is more like, maybe it's 10 inches. It's better. And I've also selected an image where the sails on the schooner are white or lighter compared to the other ships. And even when I was doing this, I was worried the sunlight in this image is coming through the kitchen window, which is over here, and hitting these things. There's a roll of white paper that's up against my kitchen cabinets, and that's what this is, this air quotes, the sky. And I think that this is all way too dark back here. For daylight, if this is daylight, which it's supposed to be, this background would not be so dark, and certainly the sky wouldn't be so dark, unless I gave it some reason to explain why. I could try to do one of those cheesy effects where, like, I'm saying, like, oh, one ray of sunlight, one single ray is lighting up the famous HMS Pickle, and everything else is in darkness. And that would not be illegitimate, that just using it as a theatrical lighting device. There's a danger that you're going to be schlocky and heavy-handed with it. But do I really care with the subject matter that I'm working on? I mean, these are almost like swashbuckling pirate movie pictures, right? I'm describing events that are dramatic, so maybe you've got the lighting has to meet the vibe of the painting. So my problem now is going to have to be, I mean, these are just 7 of the 20 or 30 that I photographed, and I'm going to have to decide now which of these 7. They're all the same, but they're all kind of different, right? They're all very similar. In this painting, I want to be larger. The last one, where I was looking across the bow of the frigate, was only like an 18-inch square painting or something like that. It was kind of on the smaller side. So this one, you've already heard me say 30 inches a couple of times. I do want this to be larger, like about 30 inches long, large. What will be determined is like how much of the zoomed in am I going to be, and how much of the 74-gun ship will be in the foreground. How much of it do I need? But I do like the framing device. I do like the way the 74-gun ship is tilted this way so you can see features on the deck. So I can add more crewmen, and the viewer will be able to discern what they're actually doing on the ship. And it'll help give it a greater sense of scale, how small the schooner is compared to the other ship of the line in the background, the HMS Victory, how big she is. I think there's a good potential for a painting here. What it isn't it isn't illustrating a particular scene from the Battle of Trafalgar. This is just me playing around with ship models, looking for something that's cool. You know, that looks cool. Ooh, that looks cool. But did Pickle sail down a line between, going in the wrong direction from the other ships during the battle? Unlikely. So this would have to be another one of those like generic, at some point prior to the Battle of Trafalgar. But these are the casting characters that are going to be in the drama when that finally unfolds. And I'm okay doing that because, as I was saying earlier, I'm not ready yet. I don't feel I'm ready yet, knowing where the ships are going to be in relationship to each other, the identity of each ship, what flag the ship will be flying that day during the battle. What does a puff of smoke from a cannon look like on a ship at the Battle of Trafalgar? All these things are stuff that I don't want to stumble into. I want to sneak up on them slowly after the second. And on that note, before I go, I'll just point out I got a couple of books. I got this one recently. This is called The Campaign of Trafalgar, and it's by Sir Julia and Stafford Corbett. This is a reprint, so I bought this on the internet. This book was certainly printed just for guys like me. It's a book that fell into the public domain, and now what we have is this is a photograph of the text from the original, which is in a collection of a library somewhere. There's actually a page or two in here where you could see the hand of the person holding the page open. I don't know if I could find that. Well, here's a weird fragment, right? Here's obviously like they shifted it across the surface of the photocopy machine as they were photocopying it, right? So maybe it's not a photograph. This original book would have come with these beautiful fold-out plans, and what we have here is just the edge of the fold-out plan, right? This would have been like a gatefold long sheet of paper that would fold out and showing more of the diagram of the battle. What's interesting about this guy is he has a thesis which is wrong about how the ships were arrayed the day of the battle, and I only discovered that as I start reading it. He has these ridiculous diagrams where he's saying, oh no, Collingwood decided that he was in charge and he was going to go and do it his own way and array the ships in a different line. So that was disappointing. But what I find interesting is, here's another one. Here's the guy's thumb, right, on the picture. The author has thoughtfully included the date in the upper left-hand corner of the time period he's describing. Isn't that great? So as you go through, you could actually find the day he's talking about just by looking at the. You don't have to look up in the back in the index, and then you'll notice at the top right of each page, he has a different little notation. So these are not chapter headings. These are page headings. He's given a different title for each page, which also helps you to sort of zoom in on the subject matter that you're looking for. If you know the date, I just think that is so delightful. I've never seen a booklet that does that, and I just think that's wonderful. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now about that book. I don't recommend it unless you want to do a really deep dive. I'm kind of skimming through it right now, and it's difficult to read because it's written in another era. It doesn't give notes of his bibliography, not so much. He has a lot about flags in the back as an appendix, but I think he's using those to support that weird thesis that I alluded to that I think was a dead end. I don't think anybody followed up on that. Anyway, that's where I am. It's now, context-wise, the winter is ending here in North America, in New Jersey, and today it's going to be almost 60 degrees. My intention was to do all these paintings in the winter, and then by the end of the winter I'd emerge from my hibernation with a bunch of these Trafalgar paintings, and obviously that's not happening. Again, I've only got a couple under my belt to show for all my work over the winter, but I'm going to keep doing them. I'm excited about doing this one. A week ago I had just a vague notion of what would be the next painting, and it was bothering me that I didn't know. If you're crossing a stream going from rock to rock, you want to be able to see the rock you're going to stand on later, and I couldn't see it. I didn't know what my next step was going to be. But after today and building this little model, I now know what I'm going to do next, and I'm excited about it. So I think that this is a good composition, and I think I'm going to come up with a worthwhile painting. But I know it'll be a tremendous amount of work. Anyway, that's 15 minutes, so I'm going to say goodbye for now for painting Trafalgar. Thanks.